Hello and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. We are continuing with Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and we are on chapter 39 out of 61, I believe. 61, 62. It's a long book. It's a great book though. Support the show, do all the wonderful things, help me pay for drama school. by watching these, by giving me a donation if you really like. There's Ko-Fi, there's links in the description box, there's super thanks on YouTube, and all those wonderful sort of things like that. Help me pay for drama school, and help me pay rent, and all those wonderful things at the same time, so I can continue doing this whilst also at drama school. But let's begin. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Chapter 39. It was the second week in May, in which the three young ladies set out together from Gracechurch Street for the town of in Hertfordshire. And as they drew near the inn where Mr. Bennet's carriage was to meet them, they quickly perceived, in token of the coachman's punctuality, both Kitty and Lydia looking out of a dining room upstairs. The two girls had been above an hour in the place, happily employed in visiting an opposite milliner, watching the sentinel of the guard, and dressing a salad and cucumber. After welcoming their sisters, they triumphantly displayed a table set out, with such cold meats as an inn larder usually affords, exclaiming, "Is not this nice? Is not all this an agreeable surprise? And we mean to treat you all," added Lydia, "but you must lend us the money, for we have spent ours at the shop out there." Then, showing her purchases, "Look here, I have bought this bonnet. I do not think it is very pretty, but I thought I might as well buy it as not. I shall pull it to pieces as soon as I get home, see if I can make it up any better." And when her sisters abused it as ugly, she added, with perfect unconcern, "Oh, but there were 2 or 3 much uglier ones in the shop, and when I have bought some prettier coloured satin to trim it with fresh, I think it will be very tolerable. Besides, it will not much signify what one wears this summer, after the Shire have left Meryton, and they are going in a fortnight." "Are they indeed?" cried Elizabeth, with great satisfaction. "They are going to be encamped near Brighton, and I do so want Papa to take us there for the summer. It would be such a delicious scheme, and I dare say would hardly cost anything at all. Mamma would like to go too, of all things. Only think what a miserable summer else we shall have here." "Yes," thought Elizabeth, "that would be a delightful scheme indeed, and completely do for us at once. Good heavens! Brighton, and a whole camp full of soldiers, to us, who have been overset already by one poor regiment of militia, and monthly balls of Meryton." "Now have I got some news for you," said Lydia, as they sat down at the table. "What do you think? Is it excellent news? Capital news? And about a certain person that we all like?" Elizabeth and Jane looked at each other, and the waiter was told that they need not stay. Lydia laughed, and said, "Aye, that is just like your formality and discretion. You thought the waiter must not hear, as if he cared! I dare say he often hears worse things than I am going to say. But he is an ugly fellow. I'm glad he is gone. I never saw such a long chin in my life. Well, but now for my news. It is about dear Wickham. Too good for the waiter, is it not? There is no danger of Wickham marrying Miss Kin. There is no danger of Wickham's marrying Mary King. There's for you. She's gone down to her uncle in Liverpool. Gone to stay. Wickham is safe. And Mary King is safe," added Elizabeth, "safe from a connection imprudent as to fortune. She's a great fool for going away if she liked him." "But I hope there is no strong attachment on either side," said Jane. "I am sure there is not on his. I will answer for it, he never cared 3 straws about her. Who could about such a nasty little freckled thing?" Elizabeth was shocked to think that, however incapable of such coarseness of expression herself, the coarseness of sentiment was little other than her own breast had formerly harboured and fancied liberal. As soon as all had ate, and the elder ones paid, the carriage was ordered. And after some contrivances, the whole party, with all their boxes, work-bags, and parcels, and the unwelcome addition of Kitty's and Lydia's purchases, were seated in it. "How nicely we are crammed in!" cried Lydia. "I am glad I bought my bonnet, if it is only for the fun of having another bandbox. Well, now let us be quite comfortable and snug, and talk and laugh all the way home. And in the first place, let us hear what has happened to you all since you went away. Have you seen any pleasant men? Have you had any flirting? I was in great hopes that one of you would have got a husband before you came back. Jane will be quite an old maid soon, I declare. She's almost 23. Lord, how ashamed I should be of not having married before 23. My Aunt Phillips wants you so to get a husband, you can't think. She says Lizzie had better have taken Mr. Collins, but I think there would not been any fun in it. Lord, how I should like to be married before any of you, and then I would chaperone you about all the balls. Dear me, we had such a good piece of fun the other day at Colonel Forster's. Kitty and me were to spend the day there, and Mrs. Forster promised to have a little dance in the evening. By the by, Mrs. Forster and me are such friends. And so she asked the two Harringtons to come, but Harriet was ill, and so Pen was forced to come by herself. And then, what do you think we did? We dressed up the Chamberlain in woman's clothes on purpose to pass for a lady. Only think what fun! Not a soul knew of it, but Colonel and Mrs. Forster and Kitty and me, except for my aunt. We were forced to borrow one of her gowns, and you cannot imagine how well he looked. When Denny and Wickham and Pratt and the 2 or 3 more of the men came in, they did not know him the least. Lord, how I laughed, and so did Mrs. Forster. I thought that I should have died, and that made all the men suspect something, and then they soon found out what was the matter. With such kind of histories of their parties and good jokes, did Lydia, assisted by Kitty's hints and additions, endeavour to amuse her companions all the way to Longborne. Elizabeth listened as little as she could, but there was no escaping the frequent mention of Wickham's name. Their reception at home was most kind. Mrs. Bennet rejoiced to see Jane in undiminished beauty, and more than once during dinner did Mr. Bennet say voluntarily to Elizabeth, "I am glad you are back, Lizzie." The party in the dining room was large, for almost all the Lucases came to meet Maria and hear the news, and various were the subjects which occupied them. Lady Lucas was inquiring of Maria across the table, after the welfare and poultry of her eldest daughter. Mrs. Bennet was doubly engaged, on one hand in collecting an account of the present fashions from Jane, who sat some way below her, and on the other, retailing them all to the younger Miss Lucases, and Lydia, in a voice rather louder than any person's, was enumerating the various pleasures of the morning to anybody who would hear her. "Oh, Mary," she said, "I wish you had gone with us, for we had such fun. As we went along, Kitty and me drew up all the blinds, and pretended there was nobody in the coach, and I should have gone all the way if Kitty had not been sick. And when we got to the George, I do think we behaved very handsomely, for we treated the other 3 with the nicest cold luncheon in the world. And if you had gone, we would have treated you too. And then we came all the way. It was such fun. I thought we should never have gotten into the coach. I was ready to die of laughter. And then we were all so merry all the way home. We talked and laughed so loud that anybody might have heard us 10 miles off." To all of this, Mary very gravely replied, "Far be it from me, dear sister, to depreciate such pleasures. They would doubtless be congenial with the generality of female minds, but I confess they would have no charms for me. I should infinitely prefer a book." But of this answer, Lydia heard not a word. She seldom listened to anybody for more than half a minute, and never attended to Mary at all. In the afternoon, Lydia was urgent with the rest of the girls to walk to Meryton, and see how everybody went on. But Elizabeth steadily opposed to the scheme. It should not be said that the Miss Bennets could not be at home half a day before they were in pursuit of the officers. There was another reason, too, for her opposition. She dreaded seeing Wickham again, and was resolved to avoid it as long as possible. The comfort to her of the regiment's approaching removal was indeed beyond expression. In a fortnight they were to go, and once gone, she hoped there could be nothing more to plague her on his account. She had not been many hours home before she found that this Brighton scheme, of which Lydia had given them hint at the inn, was under frequent discussion between her parents. Elizabeth saw directly that her father had not the smallest intention of yielding, but his answers at the same time were so vague and equivocal that her mother, though often disheartened, had never yet despaired of succeeding at last. Thank you so very much for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz, and if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there is more to come. If you're listening on podcast, please leave a review as it helps get in front of as many people as possible. Sorry, don't know how to talk. And reading your reviews really makes my day. If you want to support the show in another way, there are links in the description box where you can donate directly to me and the channel. Reminder, I've got accepted to drama school, which is really cool, but I want to be able to do this still at the same time, and any help possible would be fantastic. You can also leave a super thanks right here on YouTube, which is real easy. And yeah, once again, thanks for listening. I love you all very, very much, and see you in a couple of days with another chapter. Bye-bye.